Hi, it always happens. The phone starts to ring when I come on to a live welcome. It's Yvonne here from Women's Fitness Adventures. Hot off the trail this morning, and what a session it was, full of hills. And that is what forms the basis of this afternoon's chat. It is all about enjoying versus enduring your hiking. Now, let's see, last time we had a little incident here on the platform that I use, so hopefully it will all come together. So enjoying versus enduring a hike. And like I say, most weeks I get all my information and content and ideas from what I see and hear across the week of hiking, and also being here at the desk and the messages and all sorts of things I see. So it's Yvonne here from Women's Fitness Adventures. If you don't know me, I have been teaching, training, and taking women on multi-day hiking adventures and getting ready for hiking for the past 12 years. We've been to some amazing places, but we've also been to some amazing places inside our own backyards and inside our own heads as well. And that's part of today's session. So enjoying versus enduring. And I know when many hikers first start out, it is, that burden of feeling that we're the slowest, we're the last. The biggest question is, will I be fit enough? Will I last long enough? Will they have to wait for me? Will I hold anyone up? And that's all about being a burden. And it's the language that we start to use inside our own head that can become our long-term um, language as well. And we can get ourselves stuck on that. So if you are watching live, please go ahead and say hi. If you are watching on replay, please let me know. Um, and I really want to dig into this a little bit because we get emails all the time saying, I can't because of this, I can't because of that. And we become our own narrative in our head. And I firmly believe that unless there's something significantly um, limiting you physically, that we can all train, we can all put ourselves in a position where we are capable of doing the hikes that we want to do. So the difference in feeling proud of yourself after a hike, we're all going to feel tired and we're all going to feel, you know, a sense of physical exertion. But the difference between feeling energized and feeling proud of yourself or not, or just relieved that you've got to the end, thank goodness I'm here, I can't wait till the end and I'm going to stop, comes from preparation, not luck. Now, I've been talking about preparation for a couple of weeks, but it doesn't come down to luck. Sure, some of us may have been born with, a greater love of the outdoors or a more attuned ability to be more flexible or mobile. But for most of us, our physical fitness and our mobility, the way we show up and the way we move through the world is all just hard work. Hard work, but enjoyable hard work as well. So, hi, Marie, first off the block, lovely part of the world that you live in as well. So, I was chatting with some of our relatively new members today who are booked on our Couch to Mountain program. And what we find over time is that our members will say, I was sitting there at the beach and I saw the sand dunes, or I saw a set of stairs, or I saw a hill, and I thought, I'm going to go walk up that hill. Whereas several years ago, they may not have ever decided to do that. So, somewhere in your language, somewhere in what how we look at things, how we approach things starts to change. So every single walk that you do, every single stair climb that you do, every single hill that you do is all a deposit in our adventure bank. It's all a deposit in our I guess our hiking fit age or our fitness age. So the longer we've been doing something for, the greater that age might be. The deposits aren't glamorous though. The showing up when no one's watching and walking the stairs at your local showground, showing up when no one's watching and it's raining and you're testing out your raincoat. It's not glamorous. Showing up for yourself when it's the last thing that you want to do is not glamorous. Showing up when you're injured, that's just silly. There's other things that you can do mentally to build your adventure bank. But the deposits that people don't see, the things that you do, the training that you commit to, understanding of your gear, of your language, of your own body are all deposits in the hiking adventure bank, in the hiking fitness age, and in your hiking skill set that pay off big time when you go on a hike. And on a day hike, they pay off enormously. On a multi-day hike, they pay off day after day after day. Now, I've had some inquiries lately from non-members who, want to go on, want to do some hikes with us, book out a private hike, which is fine. We can do that. But I need the information that I need from people is what type of fitness, what type of hiking, not just how far you walked or, your age profile. It's understanding where you're currently at, what you're prepared to do, and what you're going to do as well. So you may have seen that our girls our girls, just arrived back from the Pyrenees, which is a challenging adventure. Lots of elevation up and lots of descent, lots of going down. But they were consistent in their training. They showed up time and time again. They put in the hard work. And yes, it was hard, but gosh, it was rewarding as well. And, whatever our level, when we put in the work, all that effort is worth the reward. So for those of our members who attend the TrailFit training sessions with me, you'll know that we've done one benchmarking session and we're doing another one in a couple of weeks' time, and that is to test our strength, our endurance, and our mobility as well. But what we can see those. We can see how strong we might be in our legs. We can see how many squats or lunges we can do. We can see how many hill repeats we can do, how many times we can get up a hill. We can feel our recovery rate after we, hike fast for 10 minutes or go upstairs for 10 minutes and then rest. We can feel the weight, how much weight we're putting in our pack and how much we're progressing. And why does that matter? It matters because, firstly, when we see progression, we get motivated. When we know that I can do 10 squats at, whatever depth, and 3 months later I can do 13 or whatever it might be. We can see that progression. It shows that we're getting stronger. Why we need to benchmark is that if we keep showing up and we're not measuring our progress, and we can then think that we're putting in the work. We can think that we're getting stronger. And I know I've shared this before, but my case in point was I, like many of our members, train online. I go to the gym, but I have an online trainer, and she helps me with all of my strength. And I am supposed to write down what I do every week in terms of the weights, in terms of my volume. And I've been working out with her for about 18 months, but it wasn't really until the last 6 months that I started writing it down. And I wrote it down in the beginning, but I then kind of just did the follow along video with her and didn't bother writing it down. And then one day the video wasn't there, and I thought, oh, well, I'll just go in and do the exercises. I know what to do, and I'll write down the weights I'm doing. And I was shocked because I thought I had been progressing. But what I was doing was just thinking that I had done this many last time, thinking that I had lifted that weight the time before, thinking that I had done that many repetitions, thinking that I, was able to squat to this or lunge to that or whatever it was. And it wasn't until I saw the actual numbers that I realized I'd just been showing up. I hadn't been really, and I said to our girls on TrailFit training the other day, I hadn't been showing up like an athlete. I'm not a professional athlete. I don't have any desire to be a professional athlete, but I'm showing up with the intention that I'm in this place, I'm in this space, I am going to give it everything I've got within my limits, no silliness about making ourselves sick or anything, within my limits to get stronger or fitter or faster or whatever it might be, because making ourselves important for that time and then making that time work importantly for us for showing up are two crucial things for the difference between enduring and enjoying our hikes. So quite a lot of you popped in while I've been chatting away there to my little green dot on the screen. Hello, Christine. Hello, Deb from Canberra. Hello, Linda. Hello, Leonie. Hello, Helen, Sharon, Paula. It goes up the list, but my mouse isn't working, so I can't see who else is up there. So if you have a comment, please go ahead and do that. So why benchmarking, why writing all these things down is that when we can see them, we can get excited about our improvement. And I know Ellen is here and watching, and a lot of the benchmarking stuff comes from Ellen, who lives rurally or remotely to, a lot of our other members. But and this is the reason why we do hills when we do our training sessions for multi-day hikes, is that, and hill repeats, is that if we're not doing something regularly, if we're not measuring, how do we know if we're getting faster on the hills? How do we know if we're getting stronger on the hills? How do we know if something is affecting us? Is it the weather? Is it the way we slept? Is it our hydration? Is it not having enough fuel? So writing all of those things down and saying, on this day, I did this hike, the temperature was this is how I was feeling, I had this in my pack, I had this to eat, I walked this distance for this kilometers, and our members have access to a spreadsheet in the masterclass, will all give you really good guidance as to whether you're improving, staying the same, or going backwards. And there's nothing wrong with any of those, and we can't always improve. But if we are putting in the same amount of effort and not staying the same or not progressing, then we need to look at what is going on. Are we just not showing up as that athlete to keep the dial where it's supposed to be? But training isn't about just the legs and the lungs and our strength and our ability to lift our legs, because they're so, so important when we show up on the trail. But training is also about our gear, and benchmarking is also about our gear as well. And when we first start out, and I see this so much with our Couch to Mountain, and it's so wonderful to see, and we were talking about that today, is that the language of hiking is, or certainly the language we use, is quite foreign to many people, but it's not long when you immerse yourself in something that you start to talk the language back, and it's such a wonderful thing to see. But, you know, our benchmarking is also around, the very first time, if you think back to the very first time you put your pack on or went to purchase a pack, you may have known nothing about packs. And then once you bought one and were comfortable and knew how to put it on and knew how to pack it, that was your benchmark. I know how to do this. And then as packs change over time, as you take on different hikes and different events and different things, you have that benchmark of, this is what my pack should look like. Well, now what if I start to change a few things? What does that do? Does it start to rub after a while? Does the hip belt sit where it's supposed to? Does it fall down? Do my shoulders start to hurt? All of those things. So we're not just benchmarking our fitness, we're starting to benchmark our gear as well. So we have this little framework around the type of hiker we are in all aspects of our hiking skill set, which is the gear and equipment, which is our hiking skills. It's our food, it's our first aid, it's all sorts of things like that. The other thing that we benchmark is when we first start out perhaps using poles, we may think, I don't know how to use the poles. And then you learn and you understand and you have that benchmark of, these are the type of trails that poles work really well for me, or I feel most comfortable using poles, or these are the type of trails where poles come in best for my knees going uphill or going downhill, or these are the type of trails where poles aren't really of any use to me at all, such as rock hopping and that sort of thing. So having those benchmarks around knowing and understanding what works for you in the field is really another measure of benchmarking, so that you know and you can, adapt your hiking style around all those things that you've been learning in your training. And I'll come back to the topic again. Training and benchmarking is the difference between enjoying and enduring a hike. But we also need to train in here as well. And if we are someone that always defaults to the back of the line because we always think we're the slowest, we always think, I'm not going to push it so hard today, then change that scenario, because you don't need to wait till everyone heads off on the trail before you do, because you assume the position of being at the back. people will pass you anyway in a group. In our groups, everyone's really lovely about it. We all are going to the same place. So the pace might be a little bit faster of others, but you don't need to always just put yourself in that back position, because the brain starts to think, she's put me there again, she's put me there again, and that becomes our default position. Um, the other thing about benchmarking and training is with our clothing. And now that the seasons are starting to change wherever you are in the world, we're starting to go from winter to summer here, but other side of the world is going summer to winter, is how does my raincoat perform? How does the merino clothes I might be wearing perform? How does the thickness of my socks perform? Does wearing gaiters give me the, that exercise-induced vasculitis? So all of those things are the little benchmarks. How does the temperature go? How does the time of day go? So all of those benchmarks. So if someone says to you, hey, I want to go on a hike and I want to go here and I want to go on this day and this time, you can go, okay, well, I know that, the optimal time for hiking for me is this. So let me just see if that's going to work for me. Never say no to a hike is my thing, unless it's dangerous. And the other thing is with benchmarking is and for our members, we have the masterclass this coming Wednesday on wearables, is knowing what your body feels like, knowing how your body responds, knowing and thinking, what do I want it to feel like? And that gap in between. So the benchmark is here. This is what you want to feel like, and where are you in relation to that? And, there's one thing to know what this says, and another is to know what your body says. And I know for us here in Queensland, the weather is always warm. It's warm in winter. We can get away with shorts and a t-shirt, but in summer it's hot and humid, and we're used to hiking in the heat. I know for some of other parts of Australia and other parts of the world where it doesn't get as hot, is that it becomes a fair weather hiker training scenario where it's too hot to hike, and I'm not going to hike between October and say April because it's too hot. And when we go to places when we can't control the weather, over in Europe and things like that, the weather, in Europe is getting hotter. So if we've not trained in those conditions, all of a sudden we're on a trail on a multi-day hike and it's warm, and you're thinking, I'm not used to training in this heat. I don't know how my body's responding. My body feels uncomfortable. So when we train in the conditions, like train in all conditions, we get to know and understand our body and how it responds, what it feels like to get out of breath and let it recover, what it feels like on a really steep hill for our legs, for the fatigue, what happens if I'm not nourished enough, if I'm not hydrated enough. All of these benchmarking things come into your head so that next time you go out, you make that 1% tweak to change the dial a little bit to make it more comfortable and more enjoyable than what it was last time. The benchmarking our fitness, benchmarking our gear will also eliminate any surprises on the trail, and we don't want any surprises on the trail. But the other thing is with benchmarking is also one of the most popular videos I ever made was packing for a multi-day hike. And my little video got thousands and thousands of views of what to put in your pack, and in your luggage. But it's also, can you find things in your pack? Can you find your first aid kit? Do you know what's in your first aid kit? Can you find the snake bite kit? So benchmarking all those little things, knowing yourself, knowing your gear, which snacks will fuel you, which snacks have no benefit to you at all, but just taste great. What level of water do you need pre, during, and post your hike to feel comfortable? Do you know everything in your first aid kit? Do you need to tell anyone who you hike with whether you have medications if something is particular to you? Do others need to know about it, and have you told them? All these little quiet confidence things that we build up will give you that freedom on the trail of having to think about those things as an endurance thing rather than enjoying it. And when we know our body, when we trust our gear, and we know our own systems, for hiking. You know, it could be one that's often not talked about, a system for getting it, you know, going in the morning, going to the bathroom. What is our morning routine like? How often, how early do I need to get up? What do I need to do to empty the bowels before I go on a hike? Particularly as women, when where many women are concerned about going to the toilet on the trail, getting comfortable with that system as well. Because if we're thinking, I'm going to just hold on, I'm not going to drink any water because I don't want to do a bush wee, um, is not a great thing. It risks you putting yourself in hydration or dehydration danger, but it also risks the group being in, you know, that scenario with you. But knowing how your system works, knowing what it's like to, you know, go to the toilet on the trail, go to the toilet before you go. All of those things make a huge difference to your process around you hike, and that difference between enduring and enjoying. Um, and it's not about proving ourselves to others, because everyone's a different hiker, everyone's a different speed, everyone has different capabilities, everyone likes a different level of challenge, and that's okay. It's just really being comfortable with ourselves that if someone said to you today, hey, I've got this hike and I would like you for you to go on it with me. Would you be comfortable enough with your fitness, with your gear and equipment, and with your systems around yourself to go, hey, I would love to do that and I can endure that, or I would love to do that and I think I could really enjoy that. And then you know where you're at. You know what you need to do in your training. You know what you need to do with your gear and equipment. You know what you need to do with your systems as well. So, you know, I know for our members, we've got our Trail Fit training benchmarking in 2 weeks, which is about the fitness. But I really encourage everyone to have a look at, you know, all those other things, your gear, your systems. Some of you are absolutely amazing at it, very switched on, happy to share all of your knowledge and stories as well, which is really fantastic. It's paying it forward. Um, I'm going to reread this out, Leonie. I hope you are happy for me too. So Leonie is one of our fabulous members. After 1 month off the trails due to pneumonia, and I did speak to Leonie, she was very, very unwell. I'm looking forward to benchmarking my training so I can carefully and sensibly return to my former level of fitness. I love it, Leonie, because you are so enthusiastic and so disciplined and so really focused on shifting that dial in a really safe way. So I love it. Journaling and looking at my steady improvements will definitely help me over the next few months. Yeah, absolutely. And it's the things like, and all of us at some point will have an injury or we'll have an illness, and it doesn't have to be the end of the world. It just needs to be managed exactly as Leonie is doing. Is that, and I've had my fair share of you know, some injuries this year as well, which has limited what I can do in some other aspects of my life. But it is about, you know, if we understand where we are, we don't have to go all or nothing. We don't have to go to the threshold of burnout. We just need to consistently show up. Show up in our training, show up in our gear, show up in our systems and our processes. And there's master classes on this as well, is that when you get home from a hike, what worked well, what didn't work well, what are you going to keep, what are you going to not keep and not do for next time? It could be that you brought the wrong sandwich and it didn't fuel you and you were starving by 2 o'clock. It could be that you know, you forgot to pack the shoes in the car for afterwards, so you had to wear your heavy boots home and your feet were hot. You know, just all those sorts of things. They're all little benchmarks as we go. Um, Donna, hello, Donna, says enduring during training, I hope you weren't referring to this morning, brings the enjoyable moments during your adventures. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that the ladies who had just finished our Pyrenees adventure had, you know, there wouldn't have been one mountain that they stood on that they said, oh, the training wasn't worthwhile. You know, it is really the training, you know, and as all the great athletes of the world say, you know, it's the training that gets you there. It's not just the actual hike. So thank you, Donna. Lee says, I'm traveling with a backpack on a plane. Do you recommend a backpack bag to include hiking poles? So Lee, I don't really know where you're going or what you're doing, but domestically and internationally, domestically might be a little bit more relaxed, but to never internationally, you cannot put hiking poles in your carry-on. You need to put them in your luggage. And depending if you have other luggage, but most day packs, you know, up to 40 litres will fit in overhead luggage. So, you know, obviously not fully packed, so you would need to put it underneath. But if you're putting it underneath and that's your only luggage, then you want to make sure that the straps are secure. Otherwise, they will get caught, could get caught in the luggage belt. So if it's going underneath and anyone's straps are loose, then I would definitely recommend a bag. And hiking poles internationally are definitely considered a weapon, so they would need to be packed underneath as well. So I have seen people who have been on hikes where they only want to go with carry-on. I know this is diverting a little bit, but it's again about knowing yourself and knowing your gear. You know, in my view and the view of our other leaders as well, is if you are going on a multi-day hike and you have the option for luggage, then take the luggage. There are no medals for just having carry-on or for having both. It is a personal preference, but for me, when I go on a multi-day hike, I will always take luggage, and I will always take my backpack. Everything I need in the backpack, should I lose my luggage, which has happened before, goes with me on the plane, just enough to get by. And everything underneath. And I like to shop, I like to enjoy myself. So I always make sure there's a little bit of extra room in my luggage as well. But the hiking poles definitely fit in there. My first aid fits in the bag underneath because I have scissors, I have tweezers, well, you know, sharper things in my group first aid kit as well, which can't be carried on a plane internationally or even domestically. So just all those things are a consideration for you. So the enjoying versus enduring, I know that for our members on multi-day hikes, that when you put in the effort, and all of you would have seen, even when you go on your own things that aren't part of us, that if you put in the effort, you are, you know, given the great reward of enjoying, not enduring. And if I leave you with one thing, is that the mind plays a big part between enjoying and enduring, and that for people that hike with me for the very first time on a multi-day hike, the thing they say to me by about day 2 is, if only I could have got out of my own head, because 80% of the things that I worried about and the things that I thought would hold me back were in my own head. So if I could leave you with that, the enduring, we get stuck up here in our own head for most of that time. So, you know, put in the training, build your own framework, learn from each and every hike. And as I said, for members, there's a couple of masterclasses around all of that as well. So if you're a member, it sounds like if you're a member, don't forget, or please remember that this week we have our masterclass on tech wearables. So that is all part of your membership. So just log in and register for that one. And I'll see you Wednesday night. You're welcome, Lee. And yeah, lots of other great stuff going on. In a couple of weeks' time, I'm heading off with our group and a few on here to Morocco. So very, very excited about that. We are having dinner at Rick's Cafe in Casablanca, and all the gin joints in all the world. She had to walk into mine. If you haven't seen that movie, please do. So we'll have some great photographs to share in a couple of weeks, great videos and images as well. So thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, please just post them again. But great to see some of our wonderful familiar faces. Leonie, good on you for being very meticulous. And I will catch you next week. Thanks.